All right, so welcome everybody to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about flat Earth theory a little bit. So yeah, we've got a guest on today, and do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to everybody?
Yeah, my name's David. I'm a fairly typical American. I've kind of run a small business and pretty typical upbringing of an American, so that's just who I am. And don't know where you guys are calling from or what your leanings are, if you're left, right, or nowhere, or whatever. That's
Yeah, yeah. So just to go on the record, I don't believe in the flat Earth, but I'm all about being open-minded and letting everyone share their viewpoints on these things because I think that's important.
right, and that's what flat Earth is all about. That's we're into open minds and we want people to think for themselves. And if you look into it and you find a different conclusion than quote unquote flat Earth, that's perfectly okay. We want people to look into it for themselves and not just blindly go with the authorities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it too. I think people should be able to think for themselves on these type of things. Yeah. So let's just start with why do you why do you believe in the flat earth? Like what led you to that viewpoint?
That's an extremely open-ended question, and every flat earther is going to have his response. But I think something is going to be similar among all of us. And one of those things is that at one point we were all ball or globe earthers.
Right.
And yeah, so at one point, all flat earthers that you talk to were at one point in time we were globe earthers, and we came across something that seemed to show that maybe that is maybe not indicated by science or by whatever reasoning or evidence that we have come across.
Right. Yeah. That seems like a pretty good common answer.
Yeah. For me, more specifically, it was when we sent and I can't remember the name of the probe, but I want to say Voyager. I don't think it was that, but when we sent the probe to Pluto and they sent back images, and again, I guess I have to use the word allegedly here, right. And they were too beautiful. And when I looked into it, and then I noticed they were saying that these were scientifically developed photo edits, or they were photoshopped, and that these aren't the real images, these are enhanced images. And so that kind of piqued my interest, and then something on came up like flat earth, so I kind of looked into that, and it seemed to bring up that suggested videos. When you go on different sites like YouTube or Google, it'll come up with suggested videos. And so I kind of looked into that, and it was maybe like a 3-day period that I watched flat Earth videos. And it was many weeks later that I kind of came to more of a different conclusion than what the traditional, we say establishment science comes to.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like there was a big sort of boom online with the flat Earth theory. Like it became very popular recently. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And online is basically it's really the most democratic form of communication we have, maybe other than as far as mass communication goes. It's not like CNN or Fox News where one person is saying something and then a million people view one person. Flat Earth is more like, or anything for that matter these days, it's more like 20 people telling stuff to 10,000 people, and it's just much more democratic, and 20,000 people choose what of the 10 things they're going to watch or view.
Yeah. Yeah, with YouTube, there's less, censorship than there is in other types of media.
Less. It's still definitely exists.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, less.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's kind of the first thing I thought we could talk about. But yeah, what is the other reasonings you have for believing in it? When you see the stuff from NASA, do you think that's all fake or fabricated, or is it more complicated than that?
When I go to NASA.gov, every single photo I see has something under it that makes a statement to the effect that this photo was edited by such and such person and gives the first and last names, sometimes even the middle initials, and sometimes it even gives the date. And so, like, we see that, and we're from a flat Earth perspective, we see that, and we're like, okay, why does it need to be edited? Maybe the photo is going to be an ugly photo. Maybe it's not going to be eye appealing. Maybe it's not going to be very aesthetic. But we want to know, like, why is every single photo edited, and why are on some of their photos, North America takes up like half of the globe, and on other photos, the globe's the same size, but North America is like just a really small point on it, and there's just discrepancies there, and little earmarks again, like it says it's edited, and we just want to know what's the real photo of Earth. And NASA, so far, at least to the flat Earth community at large, we can't really see where they've done that.
Yeah, from my knowledge, I think it's the reason they have the images edited is because I think they can't get an image of the full Earth because of this technology they have or something like that. I'm not too educated on that, but I believe that is the reason why.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that NASA has given recently, because the issue has been brought up, and right. So they have to say, like, their traditional answer is that the satellites or the photographic imagery instruments are so close that they can only take strips of information. Because they're so close, they can't get the whole wide view of Earth. That's their traditional answer, and that they have to put it together in a composite.
Right.
But they go a little bit far in it because they say, like, oh, well, we have to add clouds, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. And quote unquote, it's Photoshop, but it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that does, raise a good point. Like, I do believe that the Earth is a globe, but, all the images that they put forward of the Earth are, composite images where they add things and change things. But that's what was that? Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about it.
One of the things that we've always asked for is, and that flat earthers, I guess in general, and there's there's a wealth of diversity among flat earthers and a wealth of different theories among the flat earth movement. And one of the things that we've always asked for, and that, in general, to my knowledge, that we've never gotten a satisfactory answer to is, why can't they just take a photo of the Earth as it is and just show us that? NASA's kind of answer to that, or the establishment answer, is well, there was one in 1973, and so that's kind of their answer. That was by a couple years, but yeah, something like 1973, and then that's kind of what they say, is that, oh, well, we did take one in 1973, well, you're looking at 2020 now, so, do the math, you're like 47 years, later.
Yeah.
We can't do that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably why, so many people question it, because I think sometimes it's not clear from NASA, what's going on. I don't follow NASA that closely, but so I'm not too good at explaining it that way. But yeah, I think clarity is a good thing to have when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about taxpayer money, and this is stuff coming from the taxpayers, and the taxpayers demand information on that, and that's the same with kind of any government project, unless you're talking about maybe some really super secret CIA thing. Other than that, it's the same when it comes to roads, or it comes to libraries, or it comes to healthcare, or whatever the government is spending money on. The taxpayers, I think, deserve to have a straight answer, because we are the government in America. The people are the government, but we're not getting a straight answer. That's kind of how flat earthers feel in general.
Yeah, when when you're paying for something, you want to know what you're paying for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally. So yeah. That's definitely a good point. Did you hear about that man that recently died trying to prove that the Earth was flat? The guy that went up in the rocket.
Oh, yes. I'm vaguely familiar with it, and I haven't looked into that in detail. And yeah, he was kind of a daredevil, and I believe it was a steam-powered rocket.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
heard.
so and he's kind of considered a daredevil. I think he only went up 6,000 feet, and I am kind of curious about that because I've flown international flights and at least 50 times, and in the international flights, you're 30, 35,000 feet in the air. So I don't know what his angle was because I think, like, even if he was successful, he was only going to get 6,000 feet in the air. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I can climb on top of a mountain and get, like, more than that,
Yeah. 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 Do you believe in the common, like the usual flat Earth thing where there's the ring of ice around the Earth? That's what like Antarctica is, or I believe that's the theory.
Yeah. So, well, actually, in some level, that holds true for both the ball Earth and the flat Earth theories. So, in in both theories, you can travel south, essentially in any direction, and you'll reach a 100 to 300 foot ice wall, and that holds true in both theories. If you travel south in any direction, eventually, yeah, you will hit this ice wall, and um, the characteristics of the ice wall obviously differ in different parts of Antarctica, and so you would get people like 100 years ago, Shackelford, when he got stuck there for like a year, but we know that it exists, and we have photos of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess the question here is whether how much of a reverse engineering thing are ball earthers doing or are flat earthers doing. But on both models, if you travel south in any direction, eventually you'll hit a massive ice wall.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Another thing like regarding the usual flat Earth theory, like do you believe that other planets are flat, or is it just the Earth that's flat?
You're breaking up a little.
Oh, sorry.
I can still hear you though. I can still hear you.
Yeah.
I can still get what you're saying. Okay, so what we say is what most the general flat Earth response to that is what we can see through telescopes and what we can observe here as normal people walking the Earth, and maybe not. Sometimes they come out with images, and these are things that say only 15 people have access to, but something that say 15 million people have access to. We just see. I'll say round, okay, but won't necessarily say a sphere.
Yeah.
We just see round, pieces of light, and the light seems to be like discs of light, maybe behind water, even oddly enough. But that's how people usually describe it, and they change in color, as you watch them, and that's the only thing that we can observe at this point from the Earth, even with really good telescopes.
Right. In terms of like the moon landing, and we can see that the moon is, a sphere. Do you believe in that the moon landing was real, or what are your thoughts when it comes to that?
Oh, definitely not. No. The moon landing, yeah, that's actually a pretty strong point, I would say, in flat Earth's favor. There's just so many discrepancies. When you look at the lunar modular, it's crazy. It looks like it's made out of curtain rods and tinfoil, and I wouldn't land on the moon in that thing. And there's ample evidence that flat earthers put forth about that. Actually, the original Apollo astronauts who were to land on the moon, a lot of them died in a fire in the original exercise, and the very last exercise, obviously, they died in that fire, but the exercise before that, the guy actually hung a lemon from a string, from one of the instruments of the lunar, and basically he was saying this is a lemon, this will never fly. Well, that's when the fire occurred, and the next exercise after that. And it's just kind of a curious thing, and a lot of people don't believe in coincidences, and I kind of tend towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe once or twice a coincidence will happen, but yeah, that's too much of a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. The moon landing, that's something like I'm not one to tend to believe in the usual like conspiracies you hear about in terms of that, but the moon landing is one that I do question more than the others. But I wouldn't say I believe it didn't happen. But there is definitely some stuff to look into there. I think it's interesting stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's good to be skeptical about most things, though. It's definitely a valuable thing.
Yeah, and there's I can bring up a dozen other points. Where are the stars in the videos of the moon landing? There's a video of the lunar modular landing on the moon. Well, who set up that? I mean, if that's the first time we landed on the moon, who set up that video? And so they say, like, oh, well, they sent up instruments and the thing was just recording and they set it to start recording at a certain time. And I mean, I guess maybe you can grant that, but that's a little bit of a stretch. It seems a little bit far fetched that they did that, and there's just a couple things going on there that just doesn't match with common sense, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Yeah, I think it's good to be skeptical, and I disagree with people who share some of those viewpoints. I think it's good to listen to everybody because everybody has their reasonings for believing these things. Yeah, but I think like people's views towards like moon landing deniers or flat earthers is that they're stupid, so they should just shut up and stuff. But that's actually a point where I disagree. I think we should listen to people more because I mean, well, let's say that the Earth is it's a sphere. People used to think that it was flat, and then someone brought up the idea that it was round, and people didn't listen to them. So
right,
it's the same thing this way.
Well, anyway. Owen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Owen. There's been different people, and through the years, the theory has been put forth that it's a sphere. It's been put forth that it's flat, and people have been. It's been a back and forth thing, and actually, I would say the most recent upswelling, other than the advent of the internet, and maybe say 5 years ago, or maybe more specifically 3 years ago, the flat Earth thing was not a big. It was not a big deal, and now you kind of see that it's a big deal now. In the late 1890s and in the early 1900s, you had a huge upswelling of flat Earth belief. So it's not that it's, I want to say maybe it's been linear, but at the same time, I want to say it hasn't been.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, all ideas, they start somewhere. So.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think silencing people, even if you think they're wrong, is necessarily a good thing.
Right, and as a libertarian, and that's kind of separate from flat Earth, and there's, like I said, there's a huge diversity among flat Earthers. There's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's libertarians, and but yeah. So yeah, as a libertarian and a flat Earther, I would say, just spread the information out as much as possible. Let people absorb it and make their own decisions. And right or wrong, let people make their own decisions on that. The thing is, so from my point of view, I just would like the free flow of information, and that would be, as a libertarian from a kind of a systems theory perspective, that would be the most valuable thing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your views? Like, well, you said you're libertarian. What does that mean to you exactly? Just to elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I guess as I had to say, libertarians, we want the government to stay out of our medicine cabinet, out of our bedroom, and out of our pocketbook, if I had to sum it up.
Okay, yeah. It's a nice way to sum it up. I like that. Yeah. I don't know too much about the whole political ideology thing because I kind of separate myself from that a little bit, and I don't personally associate with one. But
Right.
yeah, it's all good to know
Well,
about.
I'm kind of the opinion, hey, if you live in any American city that's got at least a few 100,000 people, it won't take you more than 10 minutes and $20 to go on the street corner and procure crack cocaine. And so the reason I don't do crack cocaine is like I think it's stupid, but hey, if you want to smoke crack cocaine and worship Satan, I'm not going to join you in that endeavor. But hey, knock yourself out, man.
Yeah.
As long as you don't tell me or to do it, that's hey, knock yourself out, man.
Yeah, I mean, people can do what they want,
Yeah, it's their life. It's your choice what to put into your body, and if you hey, the same is kind of a corollary to that. Hey, if you want to waste your life, then I think you have the right to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not, from my perspective, might not be the right decision, but hey, go for it, buddy.
Yeah, everyone has the freedom to do what they want in a way.
Right.
Yeah, like same thing kind of goes for free speech in a way. I believe that people should be able to say what they want.
Free speech is only there to protect, well, in my kind of view, it's only there to protect offensive speech. So in my view, free speech is offensive speech.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and support Hitler because I don't. As a libertarian, you would never support Hitler.
Exactly.
But, I will, I think Alexis de Tocqueville said, I will fight to the death to defend your free speech.
Yep. Yeah, well, there's a lot more, like with the internet and such, and with social media and all that, there's a lot more, it's a lot easier to spread, like, what people want to say, like the free speech and all that, because it's much more available to say now.
Yeah, and I think that those are human rights, and, part of it is your autonomy over your own body and what to do with your own life, so it's an extension of that, and so no one has a right to your body, and so your body is what you're talking about. That's part of, like, the speech you make, and we humans, we've invented, complex systems of communications by word of mouth, and obviously that ties into it, so, if you want to say something, that's, hey, go for it, say whatever you want to say,
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. Back on topic to the, flat Earth stuff. Do you feel like you're, like, I guess, trying to, like, people are trying to silence you in a way, like some sort of oppression?
I guess the most I can say on that is, I can't say that I've had any institutions or individuals silence me individually. I have noticed that I do have a personal YouTube account, and this is anecdotal evidence. It's not necessarily a case study, for example. But as anecdotal evidence, I would say about 2/3 of all videos on my YouTube playlist have been deleted.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got other playlists that have like songs with like 2 million views that aren't even on like the official song channel and don't even apply to that on other playlists that they hadn't been deleted. But sometimes they use that as an excuse, and they use various excuses. And I just kind of wonder, like, why do they have to delete so many videos if it's hey man, if it can be disproven so easily, like, you wouldn't have to delete it. You can just disprove it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, YouTube does like demonetize and delete a lot of stuff like that. That's not the mainstream view. It seems like.
Yeah, and it's not just strictly concentrated on the flat Earth or restricted to flat Earth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's other avenues of our society and of our existence that they frown upon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. YouTube. I don't like YouTube as much as I used to because I feel like it's more of a business now than a place to share what you want to share. Personally.
Yeah, it seems to be slowly turning into, I would say, like maybe broadcast television, what we would traditionally consider broadcast television to be.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think, I'm not, I mean, obviously, I do YouTube. This podcast is a YouTube podcast, and I do enjoy like watching YouTube. But I can't say I really like seeing ads on every video. But I understand people monetize their videos to make money and such. But it definitely feels more like a business than a place to share.
Yeah, and if you notice, more successful channels are always the ones who have ads on their channels. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I know some YouTubers. For example, I would consider him to be quite a popular YouTuber, Severage, and he does raw meat eating. And he actually came to my hometown, and we hung out for about a week. And he told me that YouTube basically sent him a letter saying, or I guess email, electronic communication, saying like, we will never monetize your channel. Well, now he's for him to do his work, and he basically does his work full time. He puts in at least 40 hours a week. So, but he will never see monetary fruits of his videos, although many of his videos have hundreds of thousands of views each, and of course there's a few that have like a couple million each.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of strange because, YouTube lets you share whatever you want, but it only let you make money off certain things.
Yeah, if he had done videos on, like, say, underwater basket weaving or something, no problem monetizing that.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. But if it's something, controversial or vaguely controversial, YouTube, demonetized. Can't make money off of it. Yeah, I was just listening to the Joe Rogan podcast a little bit, and he was talking about how if you put anything vaguely controversial in the title, they'll demonetize it. But if you change the title, you can monetize it. So sometimes it doesn't even matter what the content is; it's what's in the title.
Yeah, and I've heard similar things. Yeah, I've heard similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, he's kind of controversial among flat earthers and among other communities as well, I suppose. But yeah, I think he has a lot of good things to say, and he speaks a lot of truth. So yeah, he's probably accurate in that statement.
Yeah. He's done like parts on his podcast about flat Earth before, mostly debunking stuff. But
right. And he has I can't think of it off the top of his head. He's got a buddy who's apparently been a buddy of his for quite a while, and he's apparently a flat earther, and Joe Rogan hasn't stepped on that train yet. Which is fine. That's okay.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting stuff for sure.
Well, I understand it from Rogan's perspective. When you start talking about flat Earth, it's almost kind of like the guy in your community or your neighborhood or whatever he talks about them putting stuff in the public drinking supply, the public water supply, and it's like,
right.
Cuckoo. But, but it's something like, hey, man, maybe look into it first and then have a judgment about that. But people rush to judgment.
Yeah, and usually he's a pretty open-minded type of guy, but I haven't seen him do a lot of that yet. But I suppose, everyone has their limits of open-mindedness in a way.
Right.
But yeah, I like to listen to everybody. Like, obviously with things like, hate speech, I don't usually listen to that because I don't consider that,
right.
good things to listen to sometimes.
Hey, I definitely agree with the right to have hate speech because, I think, as long as you're not in some kind of a position to commit an act of imminent lawlessness, okay, other than that, you should be able to say whatever you want. And again, like you said, I don't agree with that. But I think you should have the right to say stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say stuff that's mean and hurtful, and that I don't agree with, and that hurts me, frankly.
Right.
And but I think again, you want to say as much as you want. If you want to say hey, the Germans didn't kill enough people in the Holocaust, that's really hurtful. That's definitely not in line with what a normal functioning person would think of.
Yeah.
But go ahead and say it. As long as you're not in a position to actually execute your statements, then yeah, you should be free to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and there are people who say those things, and again, I will die to support their freedom to say that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, there's I don't know how much more there is to delve into the flat Earth stuff. Is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to your beliefs on that?
Well, my kind of position is that it's a all Earthers' duty to kind of show us how the Earth is evolved. So there's a book out, actually a YouTube video and a book, both 200 Proofs the Earth Not a Spinning Ball by Eric Dubai. And again, I kind of consider him to be a kook, but that's just one of the internal things that we have among the flat Earth. We're an incredibly and insanely diverse group of people. Some of us are Christian fundamentalists and believe the Earth is 5,000 years old. Some of us are more traditionalist, and we believe the Earth is like eons old. And you have everyone in between, and you have people who believe there's a dome over the Earth. You have people who believe there isn't. So, I mean, there's a million different things I can say, man. And it's one of those things like, man, I could go on forever, baby, if you want me to.
Yeah.
I like looking at physics. For me, that's the biggest thing I like to look at is having a discussion of physics. I tend not to be from and I kind of respect their opinions. I don't agree with it, but I respect their opinions. People who use like the Old Testament and stuff to say, "Oh, the Earth is flat," which is fine, and you have the right to say that. But I prefer like more of a physics explanation. So some of those things are where you can see the Earth always meets you at eye level, no matter how high you go. When we have video footage of that, you can look it up on YouTube. That people have sent drones and whatever else up to 115,000 feet, which is like 3 times higher than what airplanes fly, and there's just absolutely no curvature. The Red Bull jump with what was the guy's name? Baumgartner. Mm-hmm. And if you see the cam inside of the pod that he's in as he's going up, it's flat there. And there's different ones where it's flat. And, the fact is, the Earth should downward curve in such a way that in 2 miles there should be like 6 feet of curvature. So if you got a buddy who's 6 feet tall and he's standing 2 miles away from you, and you're on a quote unquote flat plane, say, I don't know, Nebraska, South Dakota, mm-hmm. you should barely be able to see the top of his head. But the fact is, with a good pair of binoculars, or if you got a good pair of eyes, his whole body comes into perspective. So I like to use basic physics as far as that goes. If you're talking about, if I have anything to say else about the flat Earth.
Yeah. So your views then, because some flat earthers, their views are more religious in terms of why they believe it. Is yours not religious at all? Purely.
Yeah. Science. I have no religious connection or views to the flat Earth. I have my own personal religious views, but they're nothing to do with the flat Earth.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of like flat Earth things that I see online, will bring up texts from the Bible that suggest that the Earth is flat.
Right, and it's not necessarily scientific, and actually, almost all religions say that the Earth is flat. So if you look at Hinduism, the Earth is flat. If you look at like Native American shamanism, the Earth is flat, and you can go on forever with that, almost ad infinitum. No, I just choose physics as that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely like interesting stuff to talk about for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Because, everyone has their own, reasons for believing the Earth is a sphere or flat, or I guess some people even believe it's a square. I don't even know if that's true, but I hear that occasionally.
I've never met any square earther like cube earther, I guess is what. Yeah, I've never met any of that, and I've heard silly things, and there's so much disinformation out there on the flat earth. And yeah, I won't lie. It's something that is, in some ways, it's so taboo might not be the right word, but it's so kind of outre that yeah, it's easy comedy fodder, and it's so that makes it something that yeah, you can make fun of pretty easily, and I'll laugh with you. I'll laugh with you, just on a level of comedy, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they're wrong just because of that. The way that they get there is wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because even like on the the flat Earth subreddit where got in contact so you could come on this podcast. Like most of that subreddit is jokes about flat earthers and then the occasional actual flat earther. So there's a lot of like
there's a lot of I guess shill, and I've never really fully understood the term what shill is, and I guess maybe I should look it up on Wikipedia or on the internet or somewhere where there's a viable source and see what the word shill, SHILL, Sierra Hotel Indio Lima Lima, shill is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a lot of just dismissal of those views, I think, instead of discussions, and that's why I'm having this podcast.
Right, and I would love to see discussion, and that's why I love people like you, and that's why when Angie told me, I was like, yeah, I don't know what she told you, or what, I don't know what you guys talked about. She didn't tell me too much, just to expect the phone call. So yeah, I mean that's why I would love having this discussion, and do love having this discussion, because hey man, that's how knowledge is transferred. I want to see the most knowledge transferred among people as possible. Any knowledge. Sweden actually has a really good policy on that in their government. So, if you go to Sweden, you can walk into the president's office and you can open up his mail and read it.
Oh wow.
So things like that. Again, that kind of ties into systems theory. I barely touched on that earlier, but yeah, the more information that you can promote that's going to create a better equilibrium for whatever desire you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think sharing like information, even if it's considered not like valid or correct or anything, it's still valuable to know it and to listen to it.
Right. When you look at it, every totalitarian system out there has banned knowledge. The Nazis burned books.
Right. Exactly.
The Soviets banned books, and it's kind of insane. And I just want to see the knowledge put out there, and quote unquote, like, may the best man win.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think just having these discussions and talking about these things like civilly, like, is just a good thing in general, like with any kind of viewpoint on things. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Definitely, yeah. And on that, we're in total agreement, and we might have a little bit different view on what the Earth is, or how the world looks. But yeah, we definitely agree on that, and that's something we can definitely be brothers in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. We're all the same.
Right.
Yeah. So regardless of our views, we can all try to get along.
Yeah, and we might have views on like how we should get along, but yeah, I think most people, even the most radical Muslims say like we should all get along, and they might have a little bit different view of how that's going to be achieved, but we should. And the Jews have their own views on how that should be achieved, and the Buddhists have their own views how that should be achieved, and the fundamentalist Christians have their own views on how that should be achieved, and yet even the Buddhists have their own views on how that should be achieved. But yeah, I think kind of the overarching thing is that we should kind of come together on our different viewpoints.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a good thing. Yeah. So that seems to cover most of the flat Earth stuff. Is there any final things about that you want to share, or just anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would like to say, everyone, I don't think that, as a final statement, I guess I would say, I don't think that anyone has ever convinced anyone else that the Earth is a ball or is flat, or a lot of flat earthers don't even identify as flat earthers. They just say that the Earth is like a realm and we live in it, and what we see is what we see.
Right.
But most flat earthers were convinced by just looking at the evidence on their own, and they came to their own conclusions. They weren't convinced; they just came to their own conclusions. So I would just advise everyone just look into it for yourself and see who's saying what. Question authority. Always question authority. You should always question authority, whether it's taxes, abortion, the road they're building, 300 meters from your house. I'll always question whatever the authority is. And just kind of look into it from that perspective, and that's all I would say.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we can talk about some other things too if you want. We've still got some time to talk if you have time.
Sure. Yeah. I have time. I took the whole afternoon off. I was expecting this, so.
Yeah. I'd probably have to go around like 3 or so, but we can talk for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, what are your views just in, I guess, well, we can talk politically if you want, or we can what are your views in general on things? Yeah, so I guess politics-wise, how do you lean?
I'm a libertarian. I believe in. I have some maybe criticisms of the non-aggression principle, but I'm a libertarian. I kind of a liberal, what you call like a classical liberal. So as I kind of mentioned before, the government is to stay out of our medicine cabinets, out of our pocketbooks, and out of our bedrooms. Not necessarily in that order, but they should stay out of all those. And it's another way I've seen this put is that I support the right of gay married couples to protect their cocaine crops with fully automatic weapons. And I would put that yet even in another way, but I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Right.
But yeah, so like I'm against the income tax. The government is just something which is it's out of control. Every time we have politicians come in and they say they're going to reduce the size of government, and they don't, and they always want to govern in their way, and they, each here in the United States, each party kind of has their own dirty little laundry list of countries they want to invade.
Right. Yeah.
And so for Hillary it was like Libya. Well, now for Donald Trump it's Iran. And I think they're both wrong. I like to hearken to our founding fathers. George Washington said, "We do not go out with monsters." And so I really think we need to take maybe if not even a strictly Swiss approach to things, maybe more like the Swiss, who are more neutral, and they call that isolationist, but I think we should be friends with countries. I think we should trade with countries, and I think people who want to go to war against countries and put sanctions, I think they're the real isolationists.
Yeah, I agree. I think working together is better than isolating ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. And even within America, with the political parties, I think bipartisanship isn't necessarily a bad thing to have.
Right, and we have a very curious system here in America where we have a two-party system, and somehow, again, curiously, it seems to work somehow. So we seem to be no better off or no worse off than, say, Europe or any other, what we call, a Western liberal democracy. So I can't say that it works better or worse off, but it is kind of a curious system in the fact that most others are parliamentary systems, and maybe they have 5 parties represented in their Congress, and they have coalitions and stuff they might develop among the 5, or even up to 7 parties.
Yeah.
We just have the 2, and again, it seems in some way that kind of works for us, and we've kept our liberties up and stuff. So to an extent. But yeah, I'm against the income tax. I don't really think that's a great thing to have. Of course, the billionaires, they don't have to pay the income tax.
Yeah.
There's loopholes. They can hire accountants. And, when I talk to particularly younger college students, and they're totally for Bernie Sanders, that's fine. That's your right to do that. But the answer, my question is always, how are you going to pay for it? The U.S. government is already broke right now. We're already broke. We can't pay for the stuff that we have right now. So even when we're froze spending, we're broke.
Yeah.
And their answer is, tax the billionaires. Well, if you look at it, in 120 years, we've never collected more than 18% of the nation's GDP in tax revenue. So, yeah, some years it's like 17.7%, other years 18.1%, but it's always like, or it hovers around 18%. And they will always find ways to, in other words, we'll never collect more than 18% of the nation's economy in tax revenue. And I think that if we're going to tax rich people, we got to have a wealth tax. That's what you want to do. Have a wealth tax, the yachts, tax the mansions, tax the private airplanes.
Yeah.
Put a tax on that. And that way, if someone is extremely talented or extremely inventive, and makes a few million dollars in a year, but he still wants to live basic life, then he can, and he won't be punished for that success. But if someone maybe someone is talented enough and he wants to buy a Corvette, hey, that's great, but maybe tax them on that. And I would say that would be maybe a better answer than the income tax. Of course, if someone makes $1 million a year, you take $300,000 from him, he's still making $700,000 a year, so he's still not hurting too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get a poor person, you take $300 a year from him. That actually might hurt the guy quite a bit. So
that's very
maybe
true.
the income tax isn't something we want to have. Maybe it's different system you want to look at if you're really looking at taxing the wealthy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, personally, I don't like, if you're just asking me what I'm thinking about income tax, I don't want to pay it because it's my money. Don't want to pay it. That's just my first instinct. But yeah, I think it's a tricky thing to look at, I think, sometimes.
Right. Well, a lot of the millionaires and billionaires, they are not paid in the traditional income tax. They're paid in capital gains tax, which I think is 9 or 10%.
Yeah.
Even like a poor person is taxed at like 15%. So you're saying that this millionaire is taxed at 9% because he says, like, quote unquote, all of his income is capital gains, and he might have some amount of income that's taxed, as income. But yeah, most of it is going to be taxed as capital gains. It just doesn't.
I think you cut out there. You still there? Hello? Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Somehow I touched the phone.
Oh, yeah.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
I'm not sure. I think you're just talking about the income tax in general.
Yeah, okay, so what I was saying is if you're a millionaire or a billionaire, most of your income is going to come by the capital gains tax.
Yeah.
And that's only taxed at, I think, 9 or 10%. So you can make millions, if not up to billions, from, a 9 or 10% tax rate, because they're going to claim that, all my income is done through the capital gains tax. Well, again, like, if you're making $1 million a year, and we'll say you're even taxed at 30%, that $300,000 isn't going to mean as much to you because you're still making $700,000. But if you're a poor person, say you're making $17,000 a year or $13,000 a year, that $300 is going to mean quite a lot to you. And so I see the evils of the income tax system as far as that goes. And that's why I say, the poor person is never going to buy a yacht, but the person who makes $1 million a year, yeah, he might have a yacht. or he might have a private airplane or something. So really, like the wealth tax seems to be the way to go, at least to me. It seems to be more moral also. Like the poor guy. If you look at it, people who make under $50,000 a year, the amount of income tax the United States government gets from that, it's like it's not even 1%. I think it's like 0.5%.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. Like, why even take this money from people when it's such a small contributor to how much the United States government gets? And then we want to have these endless wars, and of course, every president that goes in, we want to have a surge. Oh, if we can only spend $10 billion more on this, then we can win it. And they've been saying that since George Bush was president, and it's all ridiculous. It's all a Ponzi scheme, and it's the poor people that are hurting from it.
Right. Yeah. Politics, it's complicated stuff for sure.
Yeah, and it can be all boiled down to who gets what, when, and where. And unfortunately for us, it's gotten to the point where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And like I said, the government's already broke. It's already broke right now. What we have right now, the government is already broke and is looking for people to finance the government other than the taxpayers. And so, even if we maintain a certain level of spending or whatever, according to the current budget, we're still going to be broke. Then you have people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren wanting to say we're going to add $2.2 trillion in spending. Well, the United States government, like I mentioned earlier, is only going to collect about 18% of the nation's GDP in tax revenue. So, good luck coming up with a scheme. If you go to all the billionaires and say, hey, we're going to tax you 50%, they're going to move all their accounts to the Cayman Islands or Switzerland or, to Timbuktu or wherever they got to do, or, play around with their accounts or buy and sell stock and equity. And, they're going to do what they have to do to avoid that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a candidate that you are supporting this year?
I think McAfee is running as the Libertarian candidate, and I probably would lean towards him. And we're just getting into March, and so we still have 9 months to go, and that's still a baby to be made. And as far as I know, I would probably support him. And I think I'm on par with a lot of people that Donald Trump really disappointed me. And he promised so much and gave so much little. He gave so little back.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people are upset about that, and more than what they say in the media. So I support the Libertarian candidate, and sometimes I vote Libertarian, sometimes I vote Constitution Party.
Yeah.
They're very similar. They're extremely similar in their views. Maybe the only difference, I guess, in their views is immigration. Constitutional Party has maybe a stricter view on immigration than the Libertarian Party does. So I generally support whichever one has the most steam going for them, Constitutional or Libertarian.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm too young to vote for this election, but
right.
Yeah, I'm definitely lean left-wing, and I'm not too familiar with, the parties that aren't, Democratic, the Democrats and the Republicans, but I was supporting Pete Buttigieg while he was still in. But at this point, since it's just Bernie and I'm definitely not a Donald Trump supporter, I know that. But I would probably lean towards, I don't know, it's really close for me between Bernie and Biden. But
right.
I think...
And that's fair enough. And just know this, and this isn't even politics. It's just economics. This isn't me saying this. This is the Government Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. Mm-hmm. And just know that we've never been able to devise a tax system that has collected more than 18% of the nation's GDP in tax revenue, okay? So even if you want to quote-unquote tax the billionaires, they're just going to move their money around and they're going to play with their accountants so that, again, we're only going to get the 18%.
Right.
Yeah, so that's we'll never get more than that, and hey, find me the magician that can do that, and maybe that's something different. But yeah, so it's fine. Hey, maybe their ideas are great. Maybe all this socialist stuff is great. Maybe it is, but we can't pay for it right now. Not in our current system, and ultimately, all bills are going to have to go through the representatives and through the Senate, and of course, who finances them and who's behind them. Of course, the millionaires and the billionaires. You or me obviously have one vote each, but they don't listen to us as much as they do a Fortune 500 company owner.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing with like Bernie Sanders in regards to some of what he wants to do. Like, it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to do what he wants to do.
Like, right, and he might have all the best intentions in the world, but he's, again, when he signs that bill, he didn't write that bill. The Senate and the representatives and the House of Representatives wrote that bill.
Yep.
And so I kind of liken it to the Republicans and Democrats. Do you want to be violently beat in the face with a crowbar, or do you want to be raped in the ass? Like, take your pick, man.
Yeah, it's complicated stuff, politics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to follow, but yeah. And like especially with Bernie's whole free college thing, I don't really think that's really going to work, because it would only work with the big public schools, but there's all the private schools that they can't do that with if he didn't implement that.
And I'm one, and well, obviously you're not 18 yet. You haven't accrued that. Well, I've accrued that, and luckily, like, I've been able to secure financing at a pretty good, at a pretty low interest rate, and so I pay like $131 a month right now, and I've refinanced my student loans. So I mean, maybe some kind of refinancing thing or something might work out, but just paying them off, I don't see that would work out.
Yeah. It's stuff to think about. Yeah, my family, they're probably voting for Joe Biden, it seems like, which I don't really have a problem with. I don't hate Joe Biden.
Right.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden's fine.
Well, Joe Biden, he makes a lot of gaffes.
Yeah.
Now, he made a lot of gaffes in previous years and in previous elections. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it seems like to me like in 2 years he might be in a nursing home or something. They had a similar problem with Hillary in the previous election cycle where she was making a lot of gaffes. She was experiencing health problems. It seems like if the Democrats ran someone like, say, Tulsi Gabbard, I might vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Actually, if she ran for president, I would vote for her. She's a vet.
Yeah, she's actually still in there.
But if you notice a curious thing among Democrats, a lot of Democrats actually supported Tulsi Gabbard, and so when it came to the most recent public debates, right on television, she wasn't there. They put some other woman there to say, like, hey, we have a couple women on here. But, like, no one knew. If you go on the internet, like, no one knew who this Deborah or whatever she was. No one knew who she was. They're like, who is this woman? And we had a lot of people who supported Tulsi Gabbard, and they're like, hey, where's Tulsi?
Yeah, she's still in, technically. She hasn't dropped out yet. But doesn't.
Okay, well, yeah. Good for her.
She's not going to get anywhere, I don't think. But
I mean, I think that the Democrats have an easy win this year if they can, if they can support someone like who's halfway sane, and I think if they, Tulsi Gabbard, I think would sweep the floor of Donald Trump. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first, for the record, I'm 16, so this is the first election that I've really been involved in following, because I was only 13 for the last election in 2016, so.
Well, I kind of see, you're kind of in the same boat I was in. I was deeply into politics, and of course I was more ignorant when I was younger.
Right.
But I was like way on the Republican side.
Oh, yeah.
Before my eyes were open, so to speak. But yeah, I was deeply involved in politics.
I think you cut out again. can't hear you.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard me? Anyways, I was saying I'm kind of in the same boat as you are. I actually, before my eyes opened, I was very deeply Republican. When I was younger, I kind of had an upper middle class upbringing, and most of my family, although we are Americans, we had a more Republicans. Go figure. So I got myself involved, and I met a lot of politicians who were not involved, and they were so nice, and they presented their point of views, and I was kind of a more traditional Republican. I kind of got out and saw a more wide variety of, and you can go talk to the Republicans, you can talk to the Democrats. My view is that they all support the state, and on some level, so they all support the drugs. They all support the Federal Reserve. They all support the income tax. So, should the drug laws be this or that? Should the income tax be 29% or 37%? And it seems to me that there's not a big difference there necessarily. Like, you're still talking about minorities such as blacks who engage in the narcotics dealers dealings at higher rates, and most of these, let's be honest with each other, most blacks aren't selling drugs to the kids, and they're selling it to consenting adults. And to me, that's if someone chooses to grow a drug and someone chooses to buy it from that guy and then sell it to other people, that's a business arrangement among like three consenting adults, or four if you want to count the buyer, the ultimate buyer. And to me, that's no one else's business. It's not my business for sure.
Right.
But they don't want to have a debate about that. They're all for throw the blacks in jail, and they're not saying that, and you can't say that. Obviously they're not saying that exactly.
Right.
But I mean, that's the end result.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just government interference is very little, and it's really crazy. And it reminds me, if you've ever you can go on YouTube, and if you find one with good subtitles, you can find like the Soviet Politburo, which is the Soviet Congress, and the Soviet Union was mostly a dictatorship for most of its existence, and you will find these loudly passionate debates among the Soviet Politburo, and these guys are like yelling at each other. They're taking their shoes off and throwing it at each other, and you would think that there's some big issue going on, but they're debating the minor points of a major issue.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that happens in the world for sure.
So my thing is your body. It's your own body, and look around the room at you. Find out who's not you. Okay, they're not you. They're not you. They're not you. Oh, you're you. Okay, so whoever's not you, you don't have a right to decide what they put in your body. Put yet even another way, you would never go to your neighbor's house and tell them like, hey, you can put this into your body and you can't put that into your body. And oh wait, if you do put this into your body, we're gonna send men with guns, to your house, kidnap you from your house, put you in chains, and lock you into a cage for as many years as possible. Mm-hmm. And you would never do that. And that's why I was against my Bloomberg, because Bloomberg did that. But he kidnapped black men off the streets,
exactly,
disproportionately, and told them, hey, just because you're suspected of this, we're going to kidnap you off the streets, even though you got, maybe a girlfriend or a wife and a couple kids. We're going to kidnap you off the streets at gunpoint, mind you, put you in chains, and we're going to lock you into a cage for as many years as possible. Even if you're at the kindergarten and you're selling crack to a 5-year-old, you need to go to jail for that. But if you're talking about 18-year-olds and stuff, there's no reason that you should go to jail for that, because you're talking about consenting adults, and it's really sickening. It's really sickening.
Yeah, Mike Bloomberg, I was definitely not a fan of him with the whole stop and frisk thing, because when it got brought up like to him and he apologized for it, and they asked him why he hadn't apologized earlier. He kind of lied about, how he was going to apologize and all this and that, but really it's just to save his campaign.
Yeah, and right, and I want to say I feel sorry for the guy because they say he spent $750 million on a campaign, which we now know is failed.
I know, yeah.
But at the other end, I'm like, hey, wait a second. He seemed like kind of an asshole. Excuse my French expression. So yeah, maybe it's good that you didn't get elected.
Yeah.
But yeah, the war on drugs is valuable to a lot of people and for a lot of reasons, and it's going to be hard to dismantle.
Right. Yeah. Because that's been around for a long time now.
Yeah, and prohibition was around for a long time too, and actually, alcohol consumption reduced after the end of prohibition. But again, that's not even the point. Like, that's not why you reduce prohibition because I don't have a right for you to put to tell you what to put into your own body or what. And it's the same reasoning with abortion or prostitution. So if you want to exchange a sexual act with money, again, that's assuming it's with adults,
right?
Assuming consensual adults at that. That's none of my business. And the same with drugs, consensual adults, all that. As long as people are consensual adults, it's no one else's business but their own.
Right.
As long as the interaction is voluntary.
Right.
And I believe that's what a true liberal is. That's why I call myself a Thomas Jefferson liberal. So back in the days of the founding father, Thomas Jefferson would have been more of the liberal. George Washington would have been more of the conservative.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like out of the bedroom, out of the cabinet, like you were saying.
Yes, sir.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to go over, like in terms of there's always some problem going on in society that the government needs to figure out.
Right. And of course, they're always trying to silence some segment of society. But yeah, kind of the more, pessimistic or cynical view is that the government's going to keep growing and growing, and it's going to keep growing and growing until it just utterly collapses, and you're going to have little warlords, and you better hope that yours is benevolent, and that's kind of a prevailing view among a lot of libertarians.
Yeah.
And we hope it doesn't get to that, but it looks like when you have a system that can't control itself and that can't be controlled by outside forces, it seems like that's going to be the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not too deeply educated on that type of stuff, but yeah, I think the idea of less government is something that I wouldn't be opposed to in a way.
Yeah, and so one thing I would like to bring up is a lot of these Bernie Sanders brings this up a lot. He's I want Denmark and Swedish style socialism. Well, what he doesn't understand is that there's a difference between a stronger welfare state and actual socialism. And socialism is in part owning the means of production. Socialism particularizes on utilities, gas, electricity, internet, anything, transportation, whatever. And so actually, if you go to those countries, you find they're actually more privatized than they are in the United States. So the Danish PM came here to the United States very recently in response to Bernie Sanders and was like, hey, we in Denmark, we're not socialists. We have freer business, enterprises than you guys do. We don't even have a minimum wage in Denmark. And hey, our people, we make better wages than you guys do in the United States. Yes, we have a little bit stronger of a welfare system, and the only reason we can build that is because we have such a free business system that we're able to collect the cream off the top of that,
right,
than you guys are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's it's interesting stuff for sure to think about because there's so many different ideas people have and different ideologies in trying to find the right balance between all of them.
Right. And Owen, it sounds like you're a go-getter, and I'm actually really impressed that you're 16. You're doing it, not even old enough to vote.
Yeah.
Still interested in it. Like I said, it kind of mirrors kind of my experience, like when I was 16, 17. Maybe I was on kind of a different path than you. I was on more of the Republican path than the Democrat path. And again, like my family was more Republican, and my upbringing, and I went to a private Catholic high school, which of course heavily leaning Republican.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So of course, like that's going to be more of my background, but it's good that you're into this, and yeah, it's one of those things you just have to realize, like people are always going to make their own decisions. They can make better decisions for themselves than the government can, and I guess it's the biggest thing I can say. When you look at it, like the best decision anyone can make as far as healthcare wise, for example, we'll say that is between a patient and their doctor, and you can say that, oh well, we're gonna submit this bill that the patient and the doctors can interact freely, but by the time it gets through, maybe on a more cynical level, I guess you have to understand that it's not going to be that way by the time it goes through, because you're going to have a bunch of baby boomers and older people, and I'm kind of at the older age of the millennials, so I'm just old enough to be a little bit cynical, but I believe in freedom.
Right.
So as kind of the older age of the millennials, yeah, I understand, like, hey, they're going to screw us over on that, and you're really not going to be able to negotiate with your doctor. And in other words, 75% of the decisions are going to be by the government, and maybe 25% of the decision is going to be between you and your doctor, and really it should be all between you and your doctor.
Yeah.
And I look at it, laptops. You can go and buy a laptop for $300 and $400, maybe $500 for like a really good laptop. And if you're only 16, you might not remember this, but 16 years ago, a laptop costed $2,000, and it only did 1/10 of what a laptop does now. And the government has very little to do with technology, and they have very little regulations on laptops and technologies and things like that. And just imagine if the government took over the laptop. I mean, it would be disastrous, but the government hasn't. That's more of a free market thing. The laptops, they've gotten better and cheaper over time, and that's generally the free market. People discard that, which is too expensive or not efficient, and so people vote with their dollars, and it is a form of democracy. I won't say I'm a capitalist, but I'm a mercantilist, and so people in mercantilism, people vote with their dollars, and so people vote for whatever is the most efficient and the cheapest, and that's what we've done. For example, with laptops, and we've seen they've gotten better and also cheaper over time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, anything that has to do heavy government involvement is the opposite. So we see like student loans go up. We see healthcare go up over time. Healthcare should be getting cheaper and better over time because, hey, every other industry does that. Every other industry is getting cheaper and better over time. Put the government involved, and they just fuck it up, man. Excuse my French.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In terms of my background, the city I live in that I've grown up in is very, democratic and liberal, and my family's very democratic and liberal, and so that's kind of definitely how I lean. And in terms of healthcare, like you were talking about, I'm not a big fan of the healthcare we have here now. To bring up a point, a few months ago, I went to the ER for an incident that happened, and they gave me an aspirin, and that aspirin was $12 for one aspirin.
Oh, right, yeah, you can buy
I could have had one at home for like
$12 and get like 1,000 aspirins.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's so fractured too. The healthcare system, it needs like a lot of improvement and changes, I think.
Well, I was bit by a dog a couple oddly enough, my sister came home and she had bought a new dog, and the dog was in the bedroom that I used to live in. And so, of course, what do when you come to your family home? From Thanksgiving, you put all your clothes and your stuff in your new bedroom, and
Right.
oh, there's a dog. Oh, cute little puppy. I'll pet it. And it bit my hand off, not literally.
Well, yeah.
It mangled my hand, and yeah, $4,000 later, yeah, I'm still paying for the damn thing.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. But yeah, seriously enough, the Democrat Party used to be the party of the South, so
yeah, that's true.
We still kind of have a Democrat system here in the South, and so Democrat, but it's still really more Republican. So Democrats here are really more like Republicans, and Republicans are definitely like Republicans. So I'm sure it's a very different system from whatever you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But I think politicians they're all crooked. They're all criminals. I've never met a politician that wasn't a crook, from Donald Trump to Obama to Bush. Bush was definitely a crook, to Bill Clinton. And honestly, I have to say the last decent president was Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
and I've worked in all of those regimes since Bush, but I know that last president it was actually good to work for was you're talking about a job as serving at Wendy's or something. You're talking about half the country, right?
Yeah.
Was Bill Clinton, and I hate to say this because I would say that I lean more towards the right, and I hate to say this, but Bill Clinton was the last halfway decent president we had.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, when you break it down, like politics, it's a game. Like in the end, everyone's just trying to win and get into the office or wherever they're trying to.
Politics is who gets what, when, and where.
Exactly.
And that's what politics is. And when you're talking about government control of that, you're talking about a massive amount of corruption, whether it's from the left or whether it's from the right, and you're going to get massive amounts of corruption on either side.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody's perfect in terms of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's all, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's so different, but they're also kind of pretty similar when you really think about it.
And, I guess the sad thing is, when you grow older, you do get a little bit more cynical, and so someone like me might say you get more realistic, but in a way it is more cynical because you do see this exchange of Republican, Democrat, and you see that nothing changes. And again, they're all debating on the small issues. Should a man who engages in a voluntary business trade get 3 years in jail, or should he get 9 years in jail? And so they're debating on the details of it. And to me, it's kind of a moot point, and that's why I don't believe the two major party system it's failed us. The founding fathers warned us, and they're smarter than, well, I'm not going to say, I don't know, maybe you have an IQ of 170, but
I wouldn't say so.
I will say they're way smarter than I am, and so they kind of foresaw this happening. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and you can just look them up, and they talked about it. And
that's true. Yeah.
Right.
They did warn us that, you shouldn't have two parties. Like, you shouldn't have. I think one of them said that. They probably all shared that view.
Well,
but
I think really we shouldn't have any political parties.
Right, exactly.
And, again, I guess that's a form of tyranny to ban the two parties. But, hey, maybe that's something that might work, at least for a little while,
Yeah.
Just, hey, have two people run, and wherever they run as, and then people just follow their platform and not, who they identify or affiliate with.
Yeah, because when you have parties, sometimes it kind of generalizes people into these two groups or three groups or whatever, when really all their views are different within that group.
Right, yeah, and that's that's never really been bigger than in the South, and so I can tell you in the South that we've done a lot of different stuff to try to eliminate that. So we've tried to, so in the South, for years, the biggest thing was to list the politicians, but not to list the party they were affiliated with. So the politician could definitely be affiliated with the party. You wouldn't list that on the ballot. Well, they've always constantly, some sort of federal court has always, overruled that, and why? I guess they have their own arguments and stuff.
Yeah.
But I figured, and quite frankly speaking, blacks have always voted Democratic, but you're talking 80-90%. And I've met black people and I've visited. I've talked to black guys in white neighborhoods in the South. A lot of whites are Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they're like, man, I'm the only Republican in my community, and people give me a hard time for it. And not because I'm black, but because I'm Republican. Well, hey, maybe we shouldn't list the names of the people who are running. Not the names, the party affiliations of the people who are running.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I live in Wisconsin, north of there, so I'm not sure exactly how different it is up here, but yeah, it seems to be.
You said Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I don't know much about the politics up north. They're radically different.
Yeah.
So even left wingers down here are pro-gun and stuff. So I couldn't really quote on that much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think Wisconsin's like a swing state usually in the elections. So.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of dairy farmers and things like that, and
yeah,
who again maybe have their own status views. So if you look at some of the Amish, they want to do their own thing. They don't want to have anything to do with the government, and but you see the government will do helicopter raids with Apache helicopters on Amish farms because they're selling milk and they're not taxing it the right way, or they're not processing the milk the right way.
Oh wow!
But really, that comes down to individual liberty. If you decide to drink milk from the Amish, that's on you. And if you get sick, I'll have the utmost sympathy for you. But I don't really know a lot of people who got sick. I've known a lot of people who bought milk from the Amish, but really maybe not a lot of people who've gotten sick from it. And they're kind of a small minority group, and it seems like they're being fairly oppressed. They might be white. It seems like as a religious minority, they're being oppressed. So the federal government is very blind on things like that. And that's just one thing. Again, I can point out two paths to you. One which is maybe the ideal path, and one which is the realistic path. Or you might say more cynical. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, the government seems to fall on the path that's more cynical, and that's just how they tend to fall.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That definitely seems to be how it is sometimes. But yeah. Yeah, I didn't know all that about the Amish. That's interesting. Does the government really mess with them that much if they're doing things differently?
Oh yeah, I would. You can Google search government attacks Amish.
Wow.
Military helicopters.
Yeah, that is interesting. I did not know about that. Yeah.
And it's crazy. And you're like, wait, government cares this much about a community of maybe 700 Amish people who are selling milk to individual citizens, and
yeah, because they're just
weird,
kind of minding their own business, and now here comes the government taking your milk away.
But why does the government do that? They don't get any cut from it. If an Amish person, takes milk out of the literal bottom of a cow and puts it in a bucket and sells that bucket of milk to some other private citizen, guess what? The government, they're not getting a cut out of that. So, I think it's more of like a mafia style takedown.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if you were to ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I'll have to look more into that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things like that of government, like, interfering in a way. But yeah.
And it's my understanding that, like, we're the best off with that here in America.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
that we have the least of that going on. So if we have the least of that going on in America, just imagine how it is in other countries.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, because some people don't realize, like, Americans have it pretty good compared to some places in the world.
Oh yeah, we do, and yeah,
For sure.
we take our religious liberties for granted. We take our civil and individual liberties for granted, and that's what I stand for. It's each person's own body. Again, if you want to smoke crack and worship Satan, I make a personal choice. I've never smoked crack in my life. I've never worshipped Satan. Like,
same here.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go and do it. Go and knock yourself out. But I'm not going to follow you. And, that's one thing that's very interesting about Arkansas is recently we wanted to put the Ten Commandments up. And I was actually really proud of the Arkansas Supreme Court. A satanic church came out and said, hey, if the Christians can come to you and say, we're going to put the Ten Commandments up outside of the Arkansas Supreme Court, we can put a Baphomet, a statue of the goat Satan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We can do that, and the Supreme Court was like, I guess we have to do it, and then the Buddhists came in and they're like, hey, we want our Buddhist statue there also, and so like, hey, great, man. Hey, either put all of them there or don't have any involvement in that. You know, there's really only like four Ten Commandments that I agree with, and maybe the other 2 or 3 are just good advice. But there's really 4, like don't steal, don't kill, and maybe 1 or 2 others like well, it shouldn't be illegal to sleep with your neighbor's wife. We know that's morally wrong, and I wouldn't do that. But yeah, you shouldn't sleep with your neighbor's wife, and that shouldn't be a law. But you should just have the common sense not to do that.
Right.
At least from a human decency perspective,
Yeah, you shouldn't need a law to, not do that.
Yeah, and hey, man, if you're gonna do that, like I understand humans are gonna be humans, man. Like, man, go to a city 30 minutes away from you and do that.
Right.
Sleep with that dude's wife. Don't go to your neighbor's wife and do that. So that's one of those things, like I'm saying, it should be like a piece of advice and not law,
Right.
But yeah, I definitely agree with like the don't steal and don't kill,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, well, certainly interesting to look at that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. How long have we been going? About an hour and a half. So yeah. Is there any final things you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Man, I've said so much.
I know.
I don't really know what else I can say other than just, hey, look it up for yourself and make your own opinions, whether it's the flat earth, whether it's politics. Just, come up with your own, do your own research, come up with your own conclusions, and if it's different from mine, hey, that's great, man. I would rather you do your own research and come up with a different conclusion than me than follow someone else and come to. Okay, let me put it this way. I would rather you do your own research, come with a different conclusion than me, than follow like, hey, I said it. Now come up with something similar to me. Just because, hey, I said it or someone else said it. So I value like personal research best, and that's how almost all flat earthers came to be flat earthers, is personal research. Like, very few of us were convinced personally by like a debate or discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
And same with politics. I guess politics is something like which we talk about more in a daily life. But man, all politics is local. I'm sure you've heard that, and man, just go out and talk to your neighbor. I know we have, like, the world seems to get smaller and smaller, so, like, what happens in, a year ago when the cathedral in France, the Notre Dame Cathedral, was burning, like, the entire world heard about it. And 100 years ago, like, it would take like 20 years for someone to hear about it, and they might have like a big report on it, but like again, you would be like 1 in 10,000 who knew about that. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things, like, just man, look it up for yourself, come to your own conclusions, and talk to your neighbors, man. Go and talk to your neighbors. Go out, have a discussion with them, man. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
That's the best final words I can say. Don't let the world be so small that it excludes your neighbors and the people who live next to you and the people you work with and your friends and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely a good message for sure. Yeah, that's what this discussion here was for that exact thing. Just talk to your neighbor and see everyone's opinion on things.
Right. Yeah. And that's what democracy and we call it Western liberal democracy. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thanks for coming on here and talking about all this. It was great.
I appreciate that, Owen, and you can contact me personally, or if you want to contact me for a radio show, hey, your podcast, just let me know, call me and let me know, and hey, I'll be here, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to come on again, you can just text this number, or I can text you if we want to figure it out again. So yeah, just let me know.
Hey, that'll work, boss man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to put your name in the title of it or anything, or include any links to anything? Or
my name is David Perez.
All right. Just how do you spell that?
Papa Echo Romeo Echo Zebra Perez. David, gotcha. I guess you know how to spell that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great.
All right. You have a good one, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Great talking to you.